Today, I'm going to share with you the 5 worst foods you can be eating as an aging athlete. And these aren't just typical junk food. Some of these are being sold to us as healthy or part of the culture. As we get into this, you must keep in mind that I'm an engineer, so I get meticulous about every detail of how things work, and that includes my body. About 5 years ago, I watched as some people close to me began experiencing significant health decline. And it really got me to sort of double down on looking at my blood test numbers more critically and my health overall more critically. And what I began to realize was that although I had some really great numbers in some areas, other areas just didn't look so good. My cholesterol was high, I had what could be considered pre-diabetes. I was very active, but as it turns out, my diet was not as great as I thought it was. In fact, maybe that's why we exercise so much, so we can eat what we want. It's our reward. There are active lifestyles giving us great cardiovascular strength and an outward appearance that looks healthy, maybe hiding something we're actually trying to avoid. It could be because we are active that we're hiding behind something called a metabolic mask. And here's the thing. If you are a cyclist or just very active adult over 40, your body is not in that perpetual state of growth anymore. It has entered into a maintenance phase, struggling to regenerate cells and to avoid decline. We need to change the way we think about our fuel. So when I started thinking about this topic, I really wanted to know, what is it that is different about you and me as an aging cyclist, as an athlete, that could be creating a problem with our nutrition? Well, for one, what's different is we use a lot of calories, so we eat a lot. 2, sometimes we need quick, convenient food to be able to grab while we're riding or right before or right after a ride, just to fill that demand. And 3, and this is the rub, we're not getting younger, we're getting older, so our body doesn't use foods the way they used to. We're not those anabolic machines that we were when we were young. Our biology has changed on us. Now, if you're gonna ride for more than an hour, you need to carry the right kind of fuel for your body. You need a place to put it. That's one of the reasons I partnered with Joyoneer, but it's still streamlined enough to be safe. No loose fabric snagging on the saddle. It uses technical sports fabric to handle the heat and keep you dry. And importantly, it has the storage we need, 3 deep pockets for food and stuff, because you need the food to be convenient if you're actually gonna eat it on the ride. To get this jersey, go to the link below in the description, and you also get a 10% discount. So the 5 foods I'm about to list are accelerants for these 3 processes. Offender number 1 is the hardest one for our cycling culture to accept, and that's alcohol. The post-ride beer or wine is a ritual for most of us. Heck, sometimes it's even the destination of our ride. But biomechanically, for an aging athlete, it's a disaster. The research is very clear here. It's an anabolic destroyer. When you drink alcohol, you block a pathway called mTOR. And mTOR is that switch that tells our body to repair the muscles. And muscle building, as we know, is this process of tearing down the muscle and then building it up stronger. But when you drink alcohol after a ride, then you've gone on that ride, done all the work to tear that muscle down, and then use the alcohol to just completely stop the process of rebuilding it. And it gets worse, of course. Alcohol suppresses the REM part of our sleep. And it's that REM part of our sleep that releases that human growth hormone. Heck, human growth hormone is the thing that athletes have been known to use for doping. And here we are destroying that natural human growth hormone that we get. And you're raising cortisol, the stress hormone, and you're lowering testosterone. This is a great post-workout reward, right? For an active athlete over 50, these are a lot of negatives we can't ignore. So the science is clear, but let's be real. I mean, is this something we can give up, or is it a non-negotiable? I really want to know where you stand on this. Think about this, dwell on it a little bit. I'll let you know when we get towards the end what I'm going to do about this. But I want you to leave a comment and let's get the input from everybody else on this channel, what they think about this. There is one more thing I'm going to share at the end of this that's helping me with my decision. So dwell on this for a minute, and I will share what I'm going to do. Now, offender number 2, you probably have at home, and it's ironic because you probably got it from the sporting goods store or the local bike shop or the grocery aisle that has the quote-unquote energy foods. Long aisles of food that say energy on them. And these are your gels, your energy bars, or even your drink mixes. And they likely have an ingredient in them called maltodextrin. Okay, maybe on a race day, that's fine. If you need that extra kick, you can't really get anything else down, and you just need that energy boost, maybe the gels or an energy bar really does the trick. It doesn't do the trick if you're sitting on the couch or it's just a relaxing day, or maybe you're driving somewhere and that energy bar is just really convenient. You can just grab that instead of real food. But if you're not in that race day situation, I highly suggest avoiding that sugar bomb and getting some real food in the gut so you don't destroy that lining. Because new research shows that maltodextrin, I think it's maltodextrin, not multidextrin, is called they call it a mucosal stripper. So it really just strips that mucosal layer in your gut and allows the bacteria and things that are in the food and maybe in your gut to enter the bloodstream. And that creates inflammation. And we don't need inflammation. So if you want a long, healthy life, I suggest, except in those extreme circumstances, skip the chemistry experiments, skip that energy food aisle, and go to some real food. Now, right about now, you're probably saying, hey, Patrick, I'm a cyclist. I'm in great shape. I'm beating everybody else out there. I'm climbing hills faster. I look good. But don't be fooled. There's a term they use, and it's thin on the outside and fat on the inside. Call it TOFI. It's that hidden enemy of ours that the fitness hides. So we're doing all this work for our fitness, but we're destroying it with our diet. Which brings me to the next 2 offenders. Offender number 3, and we get places like this when we go to do our local shopping, and that is the processed meats. We know the World Health Organization classifies these as carcinogens. That's bad enough. So really exercising do a lot of things, and one of those is to keep our blood vessels flexible and our blood pressure low. That's what exercise helps us do. But when we consume this massive amount of sodium that comes in these processed deli meats, for instance, that's having a negative effect. So all the exercise we're doing is being hurt by that. It's time to swap that salami for better foods like chicken or lean beef or fatty fish like salmon. And here's number 4, high fructose syrups, and in particular, agave nectar. Marketing has convinced us that agave is a healthy alternative because it's low glycemic and it won't spike your blood sugar like regular sugars. That's true, but there's a reason it doesn't spike your blood sugar. It's almost pure fructose. Unlike glucose, which your muscles can use for energy immediately, fructose is processed by the liver. When you flood your liver with liquid fructose, it gets overwhelmed and starts turning that energy into fat, particularly visceral fat. This is how you get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease while riding big miles. It doesn't help with diabetes either. Use maple syrup instead. It has glucose your muscles can actually use, or maybe just less sweetener overall. And now number 5, and this one goes after your tendons and ligaments. Fried foods, and maybe not for the reason you're thinking. When you deep fry food or you char meat until it's black, you create something called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. Visualize these as sticky proteins. They're molecules that get into your system and make your tissues stiff and brittle. If you're a master cyclist that's battling things like tendonitis or stress fractures or ligament sprains, maybe it's time that we start looking at our dinner plate and less at our bike fit. So here's the takeaway. We need to stop thinking about just that ride, just fueling for the ride. We need to start thinking about fueling for the long term, fueling for the long ride, the rest of our lives. Now we've talked about what's bad, but we need to know what's good too. There are specific foods that really do help and give us the right kind of energy to fuel our ride and repair the body. If that's a video you want to see, let me know in the comments. Just type the word superfoods and I'll make sure I put it at the top of my priority list for one of the next videos. And subscribe to the channel so we can work on this journey together. Oh, and I haven't forgotten, have you thought about use of alcohol? It turns out that there was a study done back in 2014 that said that mTOR switch, that one that really switches off our ability to repair the muscles, is highest in the first 4 hours. So after 4 hours, that protein synthesis comes back. For me, after a long ride, I'm not gonna have alcohol for at least 4 hours. And if it's a really hard ride, really hard day of exercise, I'm not having alcohol at all because I want the best I can get from my human growth hormone. I don't wanna hurt my sleep. Thank you all for your engagement with this channel and the comments. It means a lot more to me than you probably think. My name is Patrick, and I hope this helps you on your road less traveled.